Good morning. I'm going to show you how a monogram is created from start to finish, and you'll see me wearing three hats. I will be wearing the hat of a salesman, which is what you see now, and you will also see me wearing the beret of the artist, and then you'll see me wearing the hat of a construction worker. All of these hats are important parts of my role as an artist who's creating something for a client. So let's watch how this works. So wearing the hat of the salesman, I have contact with the client, and I ask the client, or sometimes the client has already been to my website and seen my Flickr page, and maybe even have seen this video. So let's show you how it would work. So if they visit my website, there's a section of monograms here, monograms from start to finish, and I show monograms and divide them up into various groups and describe each time some element of why I chose to create the monogram in the way that I did. And it's quite handy to read all of these just to acquaint yourself with how my brain works and what you might get if you ask me to do something for you. My website is a little bit confusing sometimes, so I often will talk to the client on the phone and direct them to my Flickr page, which has sets of monograms without any of the text that you saw on my website. And usually when we are on the phone talking to each other, they can find sort of what they're looking for here, or an example of something that they think they'd like. So it's the first step in communicating to me what they would like me to do for them. And finally, I may show them this image here, or this image, yes, and we'll go through step by step to decide what we want. So I have a client now that I talked with on the phone, and the first thing that I asked her is how many letters are going to be in this monogram? Is it going to be one elaborate letter drawn beautifully, maybe with a picture of something included on it? Is it going to be two monograms, three-letter monogram, rather two-letter monogram, three-letter monogram, or perhaps even a four-letter monogram with the first and last names of a couple? So in this case, she said she wanted two-letter monogram. And then we talk about the style. Is it going to be script? Is it going to be Roman? Is it going to be contemporary and modern? Is it going to be Gothic and Victorian? Each of these has a particular feel to it. Each of them maybe will work better for a woman, or some might work better for a man. It all depends on their taste and what they want. It could be tribal. I've designed a number of tattoos for people, and this sort of tribal tattoo-like monogram is quite popular. Even if it isn't actually put on someone's body, it could be used on stationery. It could be a mix and match, where you take a Roman R, and do a cursive letter on top of it. And that's quite good at suggesting the differences between individuals. Great for wedding invitations. The letter order is the next important thing to consider. In her case, the letters are an S and an A, or an A and an S. And we don't know exactly what's going to work best. She asked me to think about what looked prettier. And so my brain is now going to, my artistic brain, when I put on my beret, is going to have to think of both of those. Normally, you do have an order in mind, which letter you want to see first. If it's initials in a name, my name would be PG or PSG, and I'd want people to see the P first. If that's important to me, for them to see the P first, then I would want to have the P be seen first. And you can do that either by letter order, like you see here, J and R, A, R, D, R, A, J. You can also imply a letter order by the size or what you see first. And you see examples below here where you see the H first in the middle one, and then you see the T and the C. If you want to see them both at the same time, both the letters at the same time, they really have to be sort of overlapping each other, like you see here in the EK. In the ATR, the R is the smallest one, and that's the one that you sort of see last. This was for Thayer Road Antiques. And we felt, the client and I felt, that the road, the R part, was really not an important part of the name. Antiques was almost as important as Thayer. So that you see that one. One often can create a balanced monogram by just repeating a mirror image of it. And it was quite popular with kings and queens of France, and probably quite popular with kings and queens now. I sometimes prefer to create a balance without having to use this, I don't want to say gimmick or trick, but this system of just simply taking something and cutting and pasting it and putting on top. Sometimes it can look very beautiful, and you'll see it almost as a pattern before you see the letters, and that's fun as well. The client might want the letters to be within a particular shape. It could be a simple solution of just drawing a shape around the composition, like in the center one here, or it could be fitting it more tightly within a shape like the circle on this one, or it could be creating the shape with the letters themselves. You see it on this heart-shaped SJ tattoo design I did. You also see it in the SEAN, the Sean fleur-de-lis. One can also add elements such as the anchor to the CB monogram. I could be asked to modify an existing logo or monogram, like the New Jersey hockey team here that was used in a bar mitzvah. I changed the letters to an S and a C in this case, but still kept the horns and the little tail of the hockey logo. Floral is quite popular, adding the beauty of flowers to a monogram is often asked of me. One could have, again, a border made of a garland kind of a thing, as you see here. One could have the letters ending in a bloom of some sort. One could apply flowers within the letters themselves. And again, that's quite popular, and I like to know that beforehand, so I know that how close I can have the letters overlap. If I have to also include flowers, I have to make sure there's room for the letters to overlap, and then these applied images of flowers. Sometimes I'm asked to create monograms using, let's say, rope. The CD here was drawn with rope. Again, that's a great way to imply tying a knot, or if you were into the nautical world or cowboys or whatever, ropes can work. This is one that I did for myself using neckties. and zoom in, and it becomes, oops, there we go. They're drawn of neckties, as you see. Finally, color is also a factor, and it's handy to know that in advance. Most of the time I can pretty easily separate a monogram into 2 or 3 colors. Sometimes if the letters are to be in color, it makes us able to create a monogram that's a little bit more complicated than one that would be in black and white. But most of the time, color is not as important in the design factor as other elements are. So again, to recapitulate, the client that I have now has asked me to create a monogram. Where's my paintbrush here? The letters are A and an S, and it could also be S and an A. So I've got that. She chose cursive lettering, and color wasn't important. As you saw, the letter form, which came first, wasn't important. I have to sort of give her examples of both. And so again, she said it could be an A and an S and an A, or an A on top of an S. And it was just depending on what we ended up deciding looked better. And cursive lettering, and that was it. So now it's time for me to change hats and put on my beret and get to the drawing board. And hold on, where's my beret? Wardrobe malfunction. Well, it's here somewhere. Oh, here it is. So I will be off to the drawing table, and you'll see the next step in the next video. Thank you. So here I am at the drawing table, having been given my directives from the client in the conversation we had on the phone or through the email. And in this particular case, the client wanted an S and an A. And they were not, at the time, they're not concerned whether it's SA or AS or A on top of S. But they did want a cursive script form. So I sit at my desk and I come up with options of how I'm going to make this all work. And I start sketching away. And you can make an S a couple of different ways, and you can make an A a couple of different ways. So I come up with those options. An A can look like that. It can look like this. It can look like that. An S can look like this. It can look like that. So I have many different options. So I'll sit at my desk and I'll come up with, there's an A and an S. I try to balance them out, give them each the same degree of weight, the same degree of importance. If the client tells me that there's a certain letter that's more important than another, I'll follow those, but normally I like to keep them even. Occasionally, even if I am asked to do something in cursive, if there's a way to make one that's Roman that I think is interesting, I'll throw that in as well. So anyway, I come up with ideas, and the top 6 or 8 I will end up scanning in and sending the client the collection of, again, 6 to 8 versions. So this is how it works generally. It's like a tennis game. I'm putting there's 2 courts. There's my court and the client's court. There's me and the client. And I send them the first batch. They think about it, send me comments. I may have to draw more ideas. Maybe they don't like any of them that I came up with. Then I do that and I send them back to them. Usually there's a point at which the client and I focus on one particular monogram that we think is going to work best. So then it goes into the refinement stage, and eventually we get to the finished product. Ta-da. But let me show you how that works in this particular case. So again, I selected a group of these that I've drawn, and I sent them to the client for them to look at. They sent me the response. So let's do that. Let me scan them in. I have many more pages of these that I've come up with. So let me scan in the ones and let's find out. I'll select the 6 or 8 that I want, that I think are best, and we'll find out what the client says. So we'll stay tuned. Don't move. Of the sketches that I came up with for the AS or SA monogram, these were the 8 that I chose to select for the client to consider. And after a few days, the client got back to me and stated that she liked numbers 2, 4, and 7. And what I would do then is set this aside. If the client had anything else to me to impart to me, I would also consider that. In this particular case, she did say that she wanted the A to be before the S. And really in none of the ones that we chose is the A before the S, but she asked me to look at the aesthetics of these and come up with a version that had the A before the S. So I did the same thing. I would come up with putting the A here. Now the A can be before the S. You can be, A, S. You could read left to right, or it could be top to bottom. A, S. Here it's all made with one stroke. A and an S. The A could look like that kind of an A, and the S could maybe do this kind of a thing. The A could be like that, and the S can go like this. That's kind of nice. And let's see, how else can I do that? So A, yeah, that's again the S. Maybe I'm being a little too close. So anyway, I'll come up with another variety of these compositions, now with the added information of the A going before the S, not on top of each other. I mean, they can be on top of each other this way, but they can't be, the A and the S like that. So the A is to be seen first. So that piece of information I have now in my head that I didn't have before. So I'll again pick the winning versions, the ones that I think work best of the ones I come up with, and I'll come up with send a scan of that to the client, and the client will get back to me as to their newer choice, their more refined choice. So that's how this one worked. So let's find out. Let me do some more of these, scan these in, the ones that I like the best, and let's find out what the client has to say. Be back in a bit. So I sent them the scans of the ones that I preferred, the 7 that I thought were the best of the refined AS monogram, and numbered them as I did here. And the client, looked at these, and they were drawn to the one where the A was sort of well, side by side, but the A was a little bit to the top and to the left, and the S was a little bit below. They preferred sort of a simple version of this, and rather than something that had lots of loops and a tangled knot. They didn't really like that idea. They preferred the simpler. So we ended up talking on the phone, and we looked at. We had this image in front of us on the computer, and we did come up with an idea that we were going to have something similar to what we have down here. And the ones that I chose that I preferred the best of the ones I designed on the refined AS monogram were these 7, I guess. And I scanned these in, send them off to the client for the client to decide which one of these refinements she liked the best. And she ended up calling me on the phone at this point. She really liked all of them, but we felt that by talking on the phone we could refine a little bit faster and a little bit easier. And she really liked the idea of the A and the S being side by side, and she liked the idea of, or I like the idea too, of having the ends of the A starts here, goes there, and the ends of the S sort of being close to each other. She liked that cozy sort of a feel. So, and that was great because I love that idea as well. And so I, as we were talking on the phone, I'm drawing and coming up with various reiterations of this. And I knew that she didn't like to have a lot of crossing over, so maybe this approach was better where these two lines aren't overlapping. But anyway, as we're talking, I'm drawing and coming up with other variants of the one that I think that she's going to like best. So we're really, really close at this point. So I'm going to come up with some variations that are a little bit neater and tidier than the loose sketches that I've started with, and present her with a final composition that I think we can refine. And I may end up actually doing this on the computer, coming up with very crisp, clean lines for her to see finally. And moving from pencil that has the artist's fingerprints all over it, and the sort of softness of pencil, moving from there to the hard edge of a computer generated, sharp, clean, crisp image is sometimes a little frightening, because it's really jarring going from here to the pencil sketch to something that's more real. And quite often I learn things about the monogram that I did not see in this pencil version, and the client may also see things very, very differently. So the next step in this process is at the computer, and you'll see how different this really looks from what it looks like when it's a digital version. And we need a digital version because this has to be engraved. It can't have pencil lines like this. It has to be black and white. It has to be very clean, very clear, very crisp. And so the computer allows me to create a file that can be sent to an engraver or sent to an embroiderer if these were going to go on towels. They can't use a pencil sketch. They have to have something that's very, very clean, very exact, perfect in a way, but I miss the fingerprints of the artist in the pencil sketch, and the idea that when you see a pencil sketch, you sort of see how my brain works. But they're not interested in how my brain works. They want a finished piece. So we move from here. Again, the client and I are 99% positive we want something that looks like this. So with that in mind, now I move to the computer. And it's a step that I take only when I'm really sure that that's what the client wants. And these two are pretty close to one another. So I think it will be easy for her to make the decision once she sees it in a crisper form. But it's not as much fun working on the computer as it is in front of the desk here, but those are the sacrifices that we have to make for moving toward that final product. So you'll see me at the computer shortly. And now here I am at the computer and scanning in the most recent version of the AS monogram. First of all, let me just do a recapitulation. The idea was to come up with a monogram with an A and an S. And my first group of ones that I thought would work, you see here. The client chose 2, 4, and 7. So I took those from the original scan and I put them up here at the top where the client can easily see them. These are the choices that they made up here, and she also said she wanted the A to come before the S. So again, I'm just reminding her of what we've talked about here, and then I scanned in the variations that I thought worked best on the refined version of the AS monogram. I then, we talked on the phone. She thought that would be the best way for us to proceed, and we came up with these 3 compositions sort of over the phone. She hasn't seen them yet, but I felt I could move to the next step to give her a crisper, tidier, more finished looking piece for her to make that final decision. So I took this scan and I pulled it into my Adobe Illustrator file, which is the one that's going to have to be created in it when it's completely finished. So I open that up, and then I get my pen, paintbrush tool, and I trace over the letters, and I can, while I'm looking at these, I can make slight changes. And of course, I need to be able to see what the heck I'm doing. So there we go, that works a little better. I zoom in here and I tweak these little lines a little bit. I don't spend a lot of time on this yet because that's another job down the line. So I'll move these lines to where I feel that they could go. Not there. Illustrator is an evil product. Zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. And I do it with the other ones here too. So, and I'm almost done here. Now the thin and thick lines that you see me showing you here are going to be altered later. So anyway, let me just zoom out here. So this is pretty close to what I had thought in my head. I'm going to move these down here now where I can see them more clearly. Move them away from that sketch. And actually, well, I'll do it over here. You can see what they look like without those pencil lines. Those pencil lines, which again, to me, make it look like an artist was somewhere involved. Now, you don't see. They're very, very clean and crisp, almost shockingly so. But anyway, so I take the letters that I have here and the lines that make up the letters, and I tweak them a little bit and come up with what I think I can show the client. And of these 3, I may decide that one works a little bit better than another. I may, in the email that I send to the client, I may suggest that I like this one, and I may say why I like it, to help her make the decision which she should go to. The thin and thicks, again, will happen where they belong. Here they are not quite where they should be. So what I might end up doing is sending her this sort of a file where I'll take this curved brushstroke and just make them all the same. So here the line is not varied, and you'll see the composition only. You see the way the lines overlap, where they cross each other. And in a way, this is a purer way to look at the composition, even though eventually the lines will be thick and thin in certain spots. But by showing them in sort of a purer state, we may be able to come up with a better decision faster as to which one of these we like. So I would probably do this. I would send the client an image, an email that just has these elements, these three choices on it, and have the client decide what she wants. And so I'll do that now, and I'll get right back to you. Talk to you in a bit. Hello. The client left off with liking this monogram, and she also knew that the intent of the final design would have thick and thin lines, and so it's now my turn to decide how those lines are going to work. So are they going to be thick here? Are they going to be thick there? Here a thick, there a thick, everywhere a thick, thick. So I'm jumping the gun a little tiny bit here. I again am back at this monogram that was chosen by the client. I will make some very, very minor tweaks on this to just make sure that I feel that it's as elegant as it can be. This might look a little tiny bit flat, so I'll move that up. I move this down a little bit, and then that sort of stuff happens. And this is teeth gnashing work. It's not, the beret isn't worn. It's, you're wearing this when you do this kind of work. It's just exacting work that has to be done by someone. And you are sort of like a construction worker. You have a plan. The plan is right here. You know how it's going to be built, and it requires skill, like riveting and nailing and hammering. But the creative aspect of it isn't as strong as it had been up to this point. And it just takes good long time to do what I have to do now. And it's, again, work that has to be done. It has to be done in a particular order, in a particular way. But it isn't as creative, I don't think, as the earlier part of the job. So let's say that this is how I want it to look. That's the composition. So I'll take this and expand the line so that I can make the lines thick and thin in the way that I want them to be made. So here, the downstroke of the A, I'm imitating how it might look. This is the teeth gnashing part. If you don't grab those little circles exactly the right way, you end up screwing it all up. So you press a lot of undo buttons when you're dealing with Photoshop. I'm surprised my undo button, my Option Z, is still not worn away here. And you end up expanding the lines, as I said, and moving them around to get the thickness that you want. Now, in this particular case, the client has, in fact, this is a monogram that has been completed. So let me just show you how I did that, what it looked like. If I can find where it went here. Zoom out, zoom out. Okay, that's not even on this file. It's not there. A is final. So here it is. This is how it worked. I'm just going to edit, copy, go back to here, edit, paste. And in this case, the client did have use for two of these. One of them was going to be on the invitation engraved. The other one was going to be on a hat, embroidered on a hat. And we felt that the thin lines that were able to be used in the engraved version were maybe a little bit too thin for the embroidery on a hat. So we did end up doing making two of these for her, and so that's how they that's how they ended up. So anyway, thank you for watching this. I'm sorry that it took so long to come up with something that looks almost so simple, but it does take that time to take all the choices that are available to us and come up with something. Oh, by the way, you also can see here that we did one last thing that wasn't on the original. We joined these two lines here at this point. So they were, in fact, connected, which is an appropriate thing for a wedding invitation, I think. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later. See you later.